Hey guys, we're going to do a quick logic class. I know this is not ideal. This is difficult. Wish I could be there to explain this stuff to you better. All I'm asking is for you to do your best, and I know that some of the stuff is hard to figure out. But when I get back, probably on Friday, I will try to help you get this stuff figured out, okay? So last week I had you guys read pages 169 to 173 in your logic books, and then I had you answer the questions on page 174 and 175. Now, I don't expect that you were able to completely get those answers figured out, right? Um, I know it was some pretty tough stuff, pretty complicated, and that's fine. Um, so today I'm going to go over that lesson. We're going to go over the reading part of that lesson and try to explain it. And then tomorrow I will go over the questions with you. So don't turn your questions in yet. Just hold on to them. And I will go over the questions with you tomorrow, and we'll try to get that all figured out and get that all squared away. Okay? So hold on to your questions, and in our lesson tomorrow, I'll try to go over that with you. Okay, so today's lesson is lesson 27, validity and the counterexample. Let me see if I can get you up to the chalkboard here. I have a very small chalkboard that's kind of hard to see. Validity, logic lesson 27, validity and the counterexample. So we're going to learn about validity and how to tell whether or not a syllogism is valid. Now, we've already kind of talked about this in a previous lesson. We talked about the different schemas, the different moods and figures, and some schemas are valid, some are not. So probably one of the simplest ways to tell whether or not a schema is valid is that there's just a list of schemas that are valid and some that are not. And if you can tell, and you could just go by that list, right? But there's some other ways to tell if a schema is valid. And the counterexample method is another one. And so we're going to talk about that a bit today. But before we mention that, I should talk a little bit about validity. Okay, so validity is whether or not your syllogism meets the criteria of what it needs to be. Let's see. What's a better way to say that? Not sure. It means that the syllogism has the potential for being a sound syllogism. Okay. If it is structured correctly and properly, that means it's valid. However, just because a syllogism is valid does not necessarily mean that it's true. You can have a valid syllogism that isn't true, which sounds odd. But think about this. Let's say, if I would say, all men are aliens, Lincoln is a man, therefore Lincoln is an alien. What's wrong with that? Because that's actually a valid syllogism. It's a triple A, 1, okay? The mood of AAA, figure of 1, right? And AAA1 is a valid schema, right? So what's wrong with that syllogism? One of the premises is untrue, okay? When I said that all men are aliens, that's not true. So this is where syllogisms rely heavily, remember, on a priori truths, things that we can all agree on that they're true or untrue, okay? Syllogisms rely heavily on that, and it's important for us to remember that. So it can be valid but not true. It can also be true, syllogisms can also be true but not valid. And because of the different way that schemas come together and so forth, there are actually times when syllogisms can be true but not valid. Let me go up to the chalkboard again here. So you have valid syllogisms are syllogisms that are structured properly. Hope you guys can read that. syllogisms that are structured properly. Sound syllogisms are syllogisms that are both true and valid. Okay? Sound syllogisms, syllogisms that are both true and valid. Um, so you can have a valid syllogism that isn't true or a true syllogism that's not valid. But if you have a sound syllogism, that means it's both true and valid. Okay? The counterexample method we're going to talk about for a bit is the method of examining. Let me read that again. The method of examining the validity of a syllogism in which a person attempts to find a syllogism in the same schema with true premises and a false conclusion. Okay, let me read it again. The method of examining the validity of a syllogism in which a person attempts to find a syllogism in the same schema with true premises and a false conclusion. Okay, so basically what that is if you have a syllogism that doesn't quite sound right, it seems true, but yet there's something about it that's not quite right, what you can do is you can replace that syllogism with different terms, different words, and make two true premises and see if it results in a true conclusion. And if you can come up with a syllogism with the same schema as that particular syllogism that has two true premises and a false conclusion, then that schema is invalid. All right? This can be kind of complicated. It can be kind of hard because the thing is, sometimes you can come up with two true premises and a true conclusion, but it's still not valid. So you have to try multiple times. So this is not a foolproof method, and it takes time, and it can be time consuming. But sometimes it can be a pretty easy way to figure out whether or not a schema is valid. So let me just give you an example. Let me see here. So if you have an example of a syllogism where we say no postmen are bus drivers, no blind people are postmen, therefore no blind people are bus drivers. That sounds pretty valid, right? But if we change that and put in different terms and use the same schema, we say no cats or dogs, no golden retrievers are cats, therefore no golden retrievers are dogs. There again, that one doesn't work. It's the same schema, we just use different terms. And we have two true premises, but the conclusion is false. Okay? I know this is challenging, and we'll keep going over this. But I just wanted to kind of go through the lesson and explain it as best as we can. And tomorrow I'll make another video and I will explain the questions and answers to you guys, okay? So for now, just read over the lesson again, all right? Read over pages 169 to 173. I know you already read it, but I want you to go ahead and read it again and just try to see if you can figure out what it means. And then tomorrow I'll go over the questions and answers with you, okay? All right, you guys take care.